Thanks for watching my tutorial today where I'll be painting this sweet sunflower picture. Today I'm using my size 6 Intuition round brush by Artegria. I'm using 350 GSM watercolor paper that I purchased at Dollar Tree. It comes in an 8x10 size pad, and I cut those down to 3x4, and that's what I'm using today, is a 3x4 cut from that. Those are in the $3 art section, the Dollar Tree Plus. I'm also using SeimiArt and Sonnet watercolors. I have my watercolor palette ready to go, and I have 2 jars of water. One is for washing or rinsing my dirty brushes, and the other is for using with my pigment to actually paint. So let's get started. To start, I want to take my indigo and just going to prepare that on my palette, and then I want to create an outline of this picture, and I kind of want it to be somewhat of a tall picture because we're doing sunflowers, and those are very tall flowers. So I feel like it's perfectly reasonable that this would be kind of a tall picture. I always think my handles look reminiscent of an ear. I always think they're kind of funny. So I've done that outline there, and I just want to go back in with a little bit darker wash, and starting at the top, I'm just going to kind of redo this, and I'm doing this so that I can then go back with water and blend this all together. And I am starting today with dry paper. I am happy with this look generally, and when I do this lighter side of the picture, I often leave some empty spots, some little streaks without pigment. Now this is just water on my brush. I've just wetted it and then kind of dabbed it off a little just on the side of the jar, just kind of swiped some of the water off just for some more blending. I don't want to overdo it because I don't want to affect too much the texture of my paper. I don't want to create any rough places, and I don't really want the paper to lift or pill. You know how that happens. So leave a little bit of that, of this white over here, and then I want to take just a little bit and drop this pigment back in, kind of at the top and bottom, and then just kind of brush some, like this is, I'm not sure if this would be glazed pottery or if I like the idea of this being kind of a milk glass kind of thing, but we'll kind of see as we go. I like that part of watercolor. Just gonna blend a little bit more. Kind of want to get rid of these little streaks over here. Okay. And we need a little more with this handle. So I like to go underneath the handle and kind of darken what would be the shadow. And then I like to just blend that a little bit. I have maybe a brush that maybe is a little bigger than I should have for such little detail, but I don't mind working with a bigger brush, and sometimes I don't know, I kind of like it. I don't know if it's because I get a wider range of usage out of it. If you use a bigger brush, then when you spread the bristles, you have broader strokes, but you can also go to a really nice point. So I like to do that a bit. Then I want to use my clean water to brush that out because there is so much blue in that. And then I'm going with my yellow deep here, and I'm just going to start with a sizable sunflower here. And the thing that I like to do with my sunflowers, that just the way that I like to do them, is not to worry about getting all of the petals spaced evenly or even the same length or size. And the reason is because sunflowers, where I live, there are a lot of wild sunflowers. They're not the big mammoth ones that you see in gardens, but they're these wild sunflowers. They grow multiple flowers to a plant, and they're quite messy. And I just like that look, and so I like that they I feel like they lend themselves well to watercolor, and the way to do them for me anyway is just to be not so fussy with them. I don't want perfect sunflowers because they're not really that perfect in nature. And then I want one that's just kind of falling over here. So as I'm doing these, I'm just kind of paying attention to what's drying and where I can work next. So what I'd like to do is start working on the leaves, and I'm just using my olive green, which is my go-to green, always. And really, sunflowers have a greener and browner. They, you know, their colors can be muted, or they can be more vibrant. And this is how I usually do mine. And I'm just getting kind of the basic rough strokes here, so I kind of know where everything's going. And making some options for leaves. Now to do these leaves, I think they just tend to be really messy. And so I do them a couple of ways. If I am able to work with a direction where I can drag the brush, then I drag it and use my broad stroke, but then I just kind of come in with some other little slashy marks. Like that. So you see those, and I don't try to make these neat at all, because they're really not very neat. Not where I am anyway. They're not very cultivated. They're just, gosh, they're just so cheerful and free. So I love that. Okay, we'll start with that. Maybe get some coming back here. And we can drag some of that pigment up. I'm not worried about every flower having a leaf or having the leaves be, you know, particularly positioned. I just want to let this be loose and just fun. Okay, I like that for starters. I want to go back in and create some more petals, and I want to overlap these a bit, but I like it if I can kind of get some different tones here. So if I can go lighter or darker, I usually try to do that. And with the sunflowers, I tend to make some little, just little slashes here and there. I don't know why. I like that look. Just feels right to do that, so that's how I tend to do those. And again, I'm not worried about how these are going or where or being perfect with them. And then I want to go back in, and here's where I just feel like you get some extra depth, and it's just so nice. I like to go in here with my raw sienna and I do this usually with these sunflowers still a little wet, and I just want to make some short little petals. I want to overlap into the existing petals. I want to have some going a different direction or being kind of flat. I want to make some of those little slashes, because all these petals in a sunflower can just sometimes be going randomly different directions. They kind of curl sometimes. So just adding these and getting some dimension in there. Not at all stressing about these looking perfect or being in the right place, because this is nature, and nature is not like that. The magic for me with sunflowers happens when we add the black centers or the dark brown centers. They just makes them pop. So now I'm adding some things behind these petals. Little shadow, little depth. Can kind of soften that sienna a little bit for that. I like that. Well, trust me on this. If you get to a place where you just think this is not working out, trust me, keep going, because sunflowers can be kind of challenging, and they get to that junior high stage where they're just awkward and gawky and braces and nobody knows what they're doing, and nothing about them feels right. And if you keep going, you will find that when you make those beautiful dark centers, that they come together, and they come together so beautifully and so sweetly. So don't give up. Now I can very easily add too many leaves, but I feel like this has gotten quite empty in here, and I do want it to be a bit, I want it to have a bit more. So I may also just kind of make some little, those little, I don't know, sunflowers can kind of have these little tendrils that come off. They're really so cute. They can kind of curl, and so that makes a little bit more texture. Yeah, I like those. That's fun. And listen, if you get stuck and you're in a place and you're thinking, what does this need or what does it not need? If you're hesitant at all, you can take a break and come back. And honestly, sometimes I come back to things that I already finished or considered finished, and then I come back and go, oh, this would be great with that. But a lot of times I regret having done maybe too much. So instead of doing that, and instead of getting to that undo, because there, I have found, are not many undo buttons in art. Although in watercolor you can sometimes buff that out. You can just scrub it out with some water and dab it, but not all the time. It's not guaranteed. And so just instead of risking that, take a little break, come back to it. It'll still be there, hopefully, unless you have kids or pets or spouses that mess with your things. So this is my dark brown, excuse me, and I'm just dotting in, excuse me, I'll probably leave that in the audio, but I'm just dotting this in. And listen, if your petals are still a bit wet and you dot and this goes crazy, you can dab it and work with that. Mine has gotten quite dry, and that's fine too. But the big thing I try to do is leave some white in there. So that's why I dot that, because I want it to look like they're little seeds. But I'm not going to stress over it. And if you dot, it's much easier to control that, to leave a little of that space. So just dotting in these centers, but see how that just kind of gave these sunflowers all the character that they were maybe kind of lacking. Suddenly they got their braces off and they learned how to do their eyeliner and contour. Right? Are you following me with the kids these days? Know how to do all that stuff. My goodness, there's almost not an awkward stage nowadays with these girls, because they know how to do all the stuff thanks to YouTube and all that there is out there to teach them. Okay, so listen, I love this. I feel like this is pretty much finished. I don't know if I would go in and add some more leaves or some other kinds of plants and I would do that, but I do kind of want to call this finished, except that I need to add my little shadow at the bottom of the vase or pitcher. So I'm using kind of a light wash of my Payne's Gray, and I'm just touching right there at the pitcher, and then I will take my rinsed out brush and drag it on the side so it's not dripping. And I actually took my brush across my cloth that I keep on my lap, just so it won't put a bunch of water in this shadow. And then I just soften that shadow a little bit so that it can kind of bleed into that water. But like I said, I think you could easily add some branches, maybe in a more brown green, and just, you know, add them, and I would do that later, but I'm really happy with this and I don't want to overwork it. So I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial today. I'm always glad when you join me and when you paint these things and then share with me. You can always DM me on Instagram to show me your work. I would love to see it and share in your journey with you. So let me know if you try it, and happy painting.